Welcome to our next series in launching your small business as we focus on marketing your small business. There's nothing more exciting than telling the public you have something new and exciting to offer them. I'm your host, Drew Tonsmeyer. I serve as the Area Director for the Georgia Small Business Development Center at Kennesaw State University. I've been with the SBDC for over 18 years, and through those years, I've helped thousands of businesses market their businesses and their individual products or services. I have experience in working with Google, eBay, and our own GrowSmart program. So what are we going to try to do in our program today? First, we're going to define what is marketing so that you've got a good idea of what marketing is. It's beyond just advertising itself. And a good plan begins with where are you now? And we're going to discuss a technique for developing a situation analysis so that you can find out where am I now and where do I want to go. We're going to do a little bit about our marketing research, how to find out more about your customers, about the mediums of where you can promote your product, as well as the markets of where you might need to be pointing your marketing message. And then we're going to be talking about the marketing mix, as we call the 4 P's of marketing: the product, place, promotion, and price. These are the variables that you can manipulate to deliver your marketing message. We're going to focus a lot on the planning process because it's going to be different for every kind of business, but the planning process is the same. You think of an idea, you implement it, you review it, you make changes, and so you have to keep on going with your marketing efforts. And then finally, we'll conclude with a few practical techniques, especially when you're on a low budget for your marketing adventures. So what is marketing? Well, when you work in a university, you pull out the textbook, and the textbook defines marketing as a social and managerial process by which individuals and groups obtain what they need and want through creating and exchanging products and value with others. I like this definition because it hits 2 key words. One, it's social, meaning it involves human. You may be doing business to business marketing, but you're still marketing to people, not to machines. So you're dealing with human emotions and human logic. The other thing that I like about this definition is this concept of exchange. You're exchanging your information, your product knowledge, or your products in exchange for their attention and hopefully their money. So what is marketing? Well, one of my favorite authors is Jay Levinson, the author of the Guerrilla Marketing series. And I encourage you, if you're looking for a good marketing book, Jay's got a good one. But I love Jay's definition. Marketing is everything you do. It's the way you dress. It's the way you answer the telephone. It's how your invoices look. It's what you do with your business cards. It's beyond just that advertising. It's everything that you do. The other thing I like about his definition is how he defines a sale. A sale is not a sale until that customer comes back again and patronizes your business over and over again or gives a referral. So not only do you have to market to new customers, you've got to have a campaign to continue marketing to existing customers to get them to come back to patronize your business again. So what do you want marketing to do? It all starts with a goal. By having goals, that helps you develop what are the right strategies that I need to establish what it is that I'm trying to do. And most of the time, you're going to start off with a sales goal. That's a very logical one. So what do you want marketing to do? What is your sales objectives? But beyond just sales objectives, there are other things that marketing can do. For instance, marketing can help position your product or service against other product or service offerings currently into the market. Remember, when you come into your own small business, you are not the only person selling that product or service out there. There are other complementary or substitutable products or services that are out there. So when you're dealing with your customers, they're comparing you against something they already know about or something they already think about. So we're going to talk a little bit about positioning. How do you wedge your business so that you compare favorably with other product offerings? Additionally, what goes into positioning is knowing what is your competitive advantage. What is it that your product or service has that makes it more advantageous for your customer to use or buy? And that involves that creative strategy. You've got to come up with that great idea, that great marketing scheme, that whole concept to put this into motion. So we're going to rely upon your own creative thoughts to help convey that marketing message. But as you develop these goals, a couple of things you have to keep in mind is one is you don't have infinite resources. Most small businesses don't have multi-million dollar marketing budgets that they can go and experiment with. So they have to work within the budgets that are very realistic. They may only be in the hundreds or thousands of dollars. So you've got to work with a marketing scheme that is well within your budget. Similarly, you've got to work within it with the personnel that are within your company. Oftentimes, that's with you. But there might be other experts that you might need to contract out, such as a web developer or graphic designer, or other services such as an email campaign manager. These are many services or people that you want to incorporate into your marketing strategy to help you be more effective. Finally, you've got to look at the market in which you're trying to market. Not only your own situation, again, looking at, are you new? Are you a franchise product? Is there some knowledge about your product or services out there? Or are you offering something that is fairly new and not many people know about? And then most importantly, you've got to consider the outside environment. As I mentioned, there are other competitors that are out there that have been there for a while. How are you going to compete with that? Plus, there might be rules and regulations either from a local government or from a national viewpoint that might limit or restrict the kinds of marketing that you can do. So it all begins with, where are you now? This is what a situation analysis is for, is to figure out, where am I? And so that helps point the road of where do I need to go. And one of the techniques you can use for figuring out where you now is what we call a SWOT analysis, which stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. The strengths and weaknesses are those factors that are internal to your company or organization, whereas opportunities and threats are those things that are external to your situation. And by doing this situation analysis or the SWOT analysis, you'll be able to determine what is the right strategies that I want to incorporate that can either minimize a threat or avoid it altogether, exploit an opportunity, or find other solutions that help overcome a weakness. Let me give you a for instance. I was working with somebody who was opening up a brand new carpet cleaning business. He had taken money out of his savings account, bought his equipment, bought his truck, so he was able to go into his business with virtually no debt. This was going to be a home-based business, so he didn't have the overhead of an office or a warehouse, so his overhead was fairly low, but he was a new kid on the block with a lot of heavy competition. When you see this kind of things, that's when you stop to realize, okay, what are his particular strengths? Like, again, low overhead. He's got the flexibility of a schedule that he can work when he wants to work or when he's available to work. But what are his weaknesses? Well, he's a new kid on the block. He may not have the industry experience, nor he may not know exactly where his pricing strategy should be compared to other things that are out there. So where are the opportunities? One is recognizing that, why do most people buy carpet cleaning to begin with? They could do it themselves. They could have their own vacuum cleaner, or they might have their own rug cleaning equipment, or they might go and rent it. But the biggest factor is why, understanding why would they choose that. And it's a factor of time or performance. And so you start focusing on, gosh, is there an opportunity I should exploit with this, because time is what they're really trying to save with carpet cleaning. But understand, you've got to deal with the threats that are out there. There's well-established competition that is out there. And some of the economic conditions, we've recently gone through a recession, so people may not have a lot of disposable income to pay for carpet cleaning. By doing this kind of SWOT analysis on your own business, you may be able to find what is unique and that particular strength that you should be promoting in your own advertising. So go back to our marketing goals. These are things that you want to establish for your own marketing plan. Goals should be measurable, specific, and time-oriented. Or we may include qualitative measures that have some sense of accountability. You've probably all heard about SMART goals, that SMART goals are specific, they should be motivational, they should have some accountability factor, they should be reasonable and provide some sense of responsibility, and finally, they should be time oriented. For instance, a goal is beyond just, I want to increase sales. Focus on the activities that are going to happen that will make those sales efforts happen. For instance, a good goal might be, I want to increase my telephone inquiries by 5 calls per day. What that tells me is that one is you got to know, how many phone calls do you get currently? Do you have a way of measuring how many calls that you have? Or how do you know if you even got an increase of 5 calls per day? Or another goal might be, I want to have an average 80% gross profit margin on each sale over the next 3 months. So again, you've got to have the mechanisms to control your financial analysis. Do you have a good bookkeeping system, and are you timely in your bookkeeping so that you can measure how your sales and your gross margin performance is doing? Having goals but not having the mechanisms for measuring is not going to help you a whole lot. So let's turn to some marketing research where you should be looking to find customers, understanding your competitors, realizing the market that you're working with, as well as the mediums, the different ways that you can convey your marketing message. What you're trying to do is shape your overall message such that you're creating some kind of brand awareness so that you are most effective in what your message is happening, that you're interacting with that human thought process and understanding the buyer behavior. Understand that buyers tend to flock together and they can be found congregated in your markets. And so we want to find out, where are those markets? You've got to be developing not only this product, but you got to develop future products and develop a mechanism for putting more products and services into that same customer base or expanding your customer base. You got to think about it electronically. How am I going to develop a web presence so people can find me when they do internet searches? And most importantly, you've got to have a mechanism for satisfying a customer, because if you live on just a one-time sale, your company will not last forever. So all of these elements go into that marketing research. So let's first talk about your customers and how to target. One of the things that we recommend is segment your markets. They can be segmented by geographical settings. Maybe your customers are in certain neighborhoods or zip codes or in a particular county or residence. That makes it easier to find the right people to target with your marketing message. Or maybe they could be grouped by some social economic factors, such as we're trying to reach people that have incomes over $100,000 per year. Or they might be in some psychographical segmentation, such as a DINK, dual income, no kids household. These particular households buy certain products much more than certain other ones, such as travel or entertainment. Understanding how we can segment by geography or some social or economic factor or some psychographic factor can help you utilize your resources better to reach the right target market. Also important is to understand the buying process, especially important when you're doing business to business. Is it an open bid? Is it a concealed bid? Is it a quoted information? Also understand the aspect of key players. A lot of people, when they're doing business to business, misunderstand or under-evaluate the importance of a gatekeeper, that many times they try to market around them, whereas if you're trying to reach a key executive, targeting that key executive assistant may just be just as important or even more so important than targeting the CEO of another company. So where do you find out information about your customers and these segments and where they might be? There are lots of different places to look. Look in the county zoning and planning offices. You can find out about where neighborhoods are being developed, What was developed 7 years ago? Suppose you have a home improvement business. Maybe you don't need to be targeting new neighborhoods, but you're targeting older neighborhoods. You can find out what subdivisions were built 10 years ago by looking in the planning and zoning office. If you're targeting new businesses, there are listings for people that have just bought their business licenses. Tax assessor's office can tell you who are the property owners that are out there, both for commercial information as well as residential establishments. Department of Transportation. Department of Transportation can lie in 3 different levels. It can be your local, which is your city or the county, often in your public works department, the state DOT, or the federal DOT planning real estate. It's especially important if you've got a retail location that you should be checking out what are the road conditions. Are there any major improvement plans of where you're proposing to put your retail establishment? Nothing could be more critical to build into a new shopping center, only to find that the road was going to be expanded, and making it very difficult for people getting to your business. You should always be checking out what are the road conditions or what is planned to be happening around my neighborhood. Yellow pages, both the traditional print pages as well as many electronic directories that are out there, can find you information. Homeowners associations, again, you're targeting different neighborhoods. It might be easier to target homeowner associations that might have their own newsletters. The Secretary of State's office has a listing of every business that is incorporated or file an LLC or a partnership within the state of Georgia or any other state for that matter. So you can find out a lot of information of who are the key officers within a company. Trade associations. You should be looking up who is my trade association for my industry, or who are the key trade associations for my customers. Perhaps they have local trade shows or national conferences that might be worthwhile attending, either an exhibitor or just going as a guest to just see what is happening into the marketplace. Mention about online directories. There's all sorts of directories to find manufacturers, vendors, and customers. Business list. In fact, many times you might can find lists for free, but sometimes it might be worthwhile to buy a list. I caution you about buying email lists, since there are laws against spamming someone, but there are ways that you can get legitimate business lists. And of course, the internet. And there are right and wrong ways to do internet searches. And finally, newspapers, both online and traditional ones. Are you scanning the newspapers to find out what is happening? Maybe there's some new businesses or new opportunities that can be found just by reading the ads or the news stories that are out there. Also, a critical piece of information in marketing actually can be found in your finances. So you should understand and have availability financial reports that can help you determine what are your cost of goods, because your pricing has to cover not only the cost of goods but give you profit as well as coverage for your overhead expenses like insurance and advertising and personnel. If you're a retailer, you have to have mechanisms for managing your inventory. How quickly does your inventory turn? How many days selling inventory do you have? What are your top selling inventory items? If you sell on credit, you need to have reports of who owes you money, what accounts are past due, what are the mechanisms that you're going to have for marketing to those customers to pay. Which brings up even more important financial analysis of liquidity ratios or debt ratios to make sure that your marketing function is in balance with your financial objectives. Much of this information might be able to be found in a resource called the Risk Management Associates. Other things that you can research is labor. If you're a service-based industry, labor plays a big part of your cost or even your ability to deliver a particular service. And many new businesses want to know, well, what do I pay somebody, or where can I find job descriptions? And the U.S. Department of Labor, through its website called ONNET Online, has wage comparisons, job descriptions that can help you find the right people or descriptions of the right people you might want to hire and what those people might cost you as an employee or possibly as a contracted service. With your particular business, you might have a retail location, and finding the right location is critical. So your local trade association, such as your Chamber of Commerce, can be a great resource, or turning to real estate professionals that know the market, that know what's going in and out of a particular place. You should tap into these resources because, believe it or not, these financial ideas, this labor consideration, all matches into your marketing elements. But the best marketing data can always be found from your customers. And you should engage early on in listening to what your customers have to say. You should be conducting surveys or perceptual mapping where, again, you're asking their opinions and comparing your product or service to other product and services they might know about. Or doing focus groups is a great way of listening to customers' opinions. And they don't cost a whole lot to do focus groups. But you need to have a mechanism for listening to your customers, not only when you start, but on an ongoing basis, because their opinion matters about how well your marketing is doing. And it is really simple to get this information. Ask. Now we turn to the marketing mix, or also known as the 4 P's of marketing. And they have to do with the product, place, promotion, and price. These are the variables that you can manipulate. They're under the small business owner's control to decide, how am I going to deliver my marketing message? So let's start with your product. This is the most basic of things. What is the core benefit of your product or service? Why is somebody buying this product? What does that customer hope to get out of it? You ought to make up a list of those core benefits that that product has to offer. What are the characteristics of that product or service? Does it have a unique packaging or a brand name or certain level of design or features that are known or could easily be communicated either through your website or actually on the package itself? How about augmented services that go into this, such as a warranty or delivery or installation or service after the sale? All of these components go into the product mix. You need to have a list of what you're going to do along each one of these variables so that you have the right product mix for what your customers want. What you're trying to get to is, what is my unique selling proposition for my product or service? Does it have a name brand? Do I have to establish a name brand? What is conveyed with that brand? Does it have a certain look, a certain taste, or a certain sound? What does it convey in its style? Is it modern? Is it contemporary? Is it very traditional? What does that brand speak to the quality of it? Is it known? Does it carry a lifetime guarantee or warranty? Does it have a recognizable trade name? Or is this something that you can establish yourself? How is it packaged? How does somebody recognize when they see that package, that is yours, and that's the one that they were looking for? It's very easy for products to become mixed up with other products that are offering. For instance, what's the difference between tissues and a Kleenex? Both are tissues. One is a name brand, Kleenex. Tissue is a generic names. Is it serving Kleenex well that everybody calls it tissues? Or do they lose some of that brand recognition because people will easily substitute another tissue brand for their own product offerings? So these are just some of the elements you want to be thinking about when it comes to my product. How can I convey the traditional values that are in there? A lot of it can do with what kind of font are you using on your packaging, on your website? What colors are you using? Who determines this? Actually, you do. But you might determine this factor, but your customers may have a different idea of what you were trying to mean. How is that trade name or product protected? Do you have intellectual property protection? Do you have trade name registration? Or is this worth going through a utility patent or a product patent? How is a product received? Is it sent directly to the customers? Is it sent directly to an intermediary or a wholesaler or another reseller? Those have different considerations than your end consumer. Can Vendor, help provide a warranty or serviceability for your product or service. These are just some of the many different aspects about your product that help you attain that unique selling proposition. Let's turn now to price and let's look at your pricing considerations. There are two basic strategies you can do is a cost strategy or a value pricing strategy. With a cost-based strategy is you're typically marking up that product on some certain percentage. In retail, very often they have what's called a keystone pricing strategy where we double the price. So if you buy an item and it costs you $5, then the retail price might be $10. This is a very common pricing method. It's an easy pricing method for you to incorporate and to get others to use. That way, when you get product in, you need your employees to stock the shelf and put the pricing on there, they know the pricing strategy to follow. Many people consider this a fair pricing strategy, but it does have the disadvantage that it may not be the best way of maximizing profits, and you may not be allocating enough to cover all those fixed expenses like rent, insurance, advertising, all of those other things that go into that. The other strategy is a value-based. These optimize profits, where what's it worth to a customer. It requires research. You have to know what is it that they can substitute. Why is this a higher price? Does it offer better value than what they can currently get? This can be very difficult to administer since certain products may have different value pricing than some other products within your stream. In fact, a lot of businesses do incorporate different pricing strategies. They might have an early entry or low price product, but then they really were trying to get people to buy their higher end products that carry a greater margin. And many consumers, or some consumers, may consider this an unfair pricing strategy. The place. Think about where it is that your product or your sales are actually taking place. Are they taking place over the internet? How is that being done? Or is this in a traditional brick and mortar location? Do you sell direct? Is that sold directly through mail order or through catalogs or again through the internet? Or is it sold through a wholesaler or intermediary? Where you sell this or where your customer or who your customer is places different marketing strategies. A retail product that goes through an intermediary or wholesaler, that wholesaler has a very different reason for buying the product. Many times they don't care what the product does. They want a product that they can resell and make a profit on. Versus your consumer might want a product that serves some other ulterior motives. So you have a different consumer as you do a customer. And understanding the difference between the two can be very important to your place strategy. And finally, we come to promotion. How is it that you're going to promote your product? Through advertising, through your personal selling efforts, through sales promotions, through positioning or electronic promotions, or through some third-party media through public relations. Let's take a look at each one of these. With advertising, that's when you are paying to have your marketing message, like the graphics on a car. How can you make your graphics stand out differently on a car? If you see the example of the plumbing truck on the left, nice lettering, really good. But look at how somebody was creative and kind of stood out from the crowd in the graphics that they use. Now, it's not for everybody. That conveys a certain message, and that may not be something that a plumbing company that has hundreds of plumbers wants to do versus a solo plumber. But you'll see the difference of what that kind of message kind of conveys out to the public. So let's look at some other advertising. That there are some mass media outlets available to many small businesses. TV, radio, and print, for instance. It used to be TV was far beyond what most small businesses can afford, but actually now through segmented markets, TV can actually be a very affordable market. You can actually have it concentrated to have your message delivered within a certain zip code or TV radius or certain channels, or be the scroll on like a weather service. So there are lots of different ways that you can get your media out on TV. radio is still a very effective medium. And now we've actually seen radio expand into internet radio. And so there's the traditional airwaves or broadcast radio, but also internet radio that as well. And print comes in a lot of varieties, from your local newspapers and magazines to larger publications. But all of these share two common characteristics. To be effective in these mass medias, you have to be consistent and constant. And what I mean is, by consistent is you can't just do one ad. You can't do one time in a newspaper and think it's going to work. You have to do multiple editions. Same way with a TV spot. You can't just run one spot. You have to run multiple spots in a day, over multiple days and over multiple weeks, for it to be effective. It's been said that on average, the average consumer receives about 3,000 marketing messages a day. And you're just one of those 3,000 messages that you have to compete with. So you have to be there a lot more so they can recognize it and begin to grow interest in what you're trying to sell. The other important thing is to be constant. The same kind of themes and tactics that you see in a TV ought to conveyed in your print advertising, so that people can see, oh, this print ad that I see relates to the TV or the radio spot I heard. You want to be consistent in the way those messages are conveyed. An easy way of kind of comparing cost is, don't look at the absolute cost of the ad, but really the cost per thousand. Since these go to the masses, how much does it cost to really run a TV spot to the thousands of people that might be on that particular network? By comparing it in a cost per thousand, you may be able to break down the TV, radio, and print choices that you have, so that you can choose what is the most effective method for me with the budget that I have. Personal selling. Just about every product or service out there has some aspect of selling that's involved. But it's going to be different for every kind of customer that you have, for every kind of market that you do. And it's going to be varied by the delivery method that you have. Are you selling to the end consumer? Are you selling to another intermediary or wholesalers? Do you need to develop a script to step people through this? Or is each one very different? How long is that sales cycle? From the moment somebody sees your product till they're in a buying transaction, is that 1 minute, like in a retail location? Or is that 3 months, like in a business-to-business type circumstance? Understanding that sales cycle will help you develop what is the personal selling strategy I need to have to take advantage of this.